is the most appalling proposal yet. This is the worst proposal yet for Ukraine. It's humiliating, it'll go nowhere, and it shouldn't go anywhere. And yet again, Donald Trump seems to be confusing perpetrator, aggressor with victim, and treating Ukraine as if they're the people who need to be put back in their box and reined in and tied down.
Let's start, shall we, with Ukraine, because those leaked peace proposals between Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Kirill Dmitriev, an advisor to President Putin, would see Ukraine give up the Donbass and half of its armed forces. There's also other worrying signs to do with the weaponry that the US would continue to provide. And I want to start with you on this, because obviously the UK government will be looking on and probably likely be quite concerned. The understanding is that ministers have not been briefed here. So how serious, how realistic a prospect is this potential peace plan?
It doesn't seem very realistic at all. I mean, we're regularly served up these stories of proposed peace plans that then go nowhere, and this seems like a similar example. I mean, reportedly in this plan would include land under Ukrainian control currently being handed over. It would also stipulate, apparently, that Russian would be recognised as an official language in Ukraine. I mean, it's a complete... it couldn't really be more designed to humiliate Ukraine if it tried harder. I don't think that it could. And the fact that, I mean, there are quotes talking about White House officials saying, we don't care what the Europeans think. That's the kind of attitude here. Obviously, the UK government's going to be deeply concerned. On the same day here that we're talking about this, we're talking about the Europeans actually have been stumping up the cash, and the amount that they're going to be spending is now going to be rivaling the US defence spend. So that, I think, is an important development, in that Trump has basically said to Europe, look, you've got to start putting your hand in your pocket, and Europeans have responded to that, which does give them some kind of more power in this situation, certainly. And I mean, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. It doesn't seem like it to me.
More power, Guto, in the sense that Europe may finally have recognised that Trump's about to walk away from guaranteeing European security. And we can talk about the Russian vessel off the coast of the UK and the Polish railway attack. But realistically, no UK government's going to go up against Donald Trump, are they?
I don't know, but this is the most appalling proposal yet. This is the worst proposal yet for Ukraine. It's humiliating, it'll go nowhere, and it shouldn't go anywhere. And yet again, Donald Trump seems to be confusing perpetrator, aggressor with victim, and treating Ukraine as if they're the people who need to be put back in their box and reined in and tied down. They are the victims of a Russian aggression, and yet it's them who are expected to halve the size of their army and do away with the kind of missiles that can defend them.
But he doesn't see that point, does he? I mean, I think...
He just doesn't get it, does
Everything flows from the fact that he thinks it's a morally neutral war. He thinks there's two sides to the war, and there needs to be a meeting in the middle, because he doesn't think one has done acting more morally wrongly than the other.
And that's why it's been flawed from the start. But I did, and I don't know if you had a little sliver of hope, as I did, Stig, but I did think that at some point the penny had dropped for Donald Trump, and he was starting to talk about using the leverage he has against Putin, not against Zelensky. But he's not. He's gone back to treating it as if the problem here is Zelensky's not prepared to wave the white flag high enough and long enough.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Because Trump is constantly oscillating wildly between the two positions, and it does seem from the outside like he's just agreeing with the last person who spoke to him. So this is why this could go nowhere, because he'll be saying something completely different next week.
And how much do we know, Sienna, that this is what Trump currently thinks? And I know that trying to predict Donald Trump's mindset is difficult. He's very focused on the Epstein files right now. This is a plan that's been hatched by Steve Witkoff and the Russians, not with Ukrainian involvement. It's also, according to Ben Wallace and Stephen Erlanger, who we spoke to earlier, chief diplomatic correspondent, it's not a new plan. It's been pushed a number of times before. What should we read into the timing? I mean, Zelensky's under pressure because of corruption. The Russians think they're doing pretty well. Is this a timing issue? Is this really what Trump wants to happen, do you think?
Yeah, we don't know that yet. Exactly. We don't know. I mean, Trump hasn't spoken about this specifically. And also, I don't know whether you've seen on Twitter that Steve Witkoff tweeted, this is very interesting. He tweeted about the leak, he must have got this from Kay. So it's kind of looks like it should have been a DM. People are now arguing over whether it should have been a DM and he's made a mistake and he's that incompetent, or whether this was deliberate, and who Kay is, of course.
But Kay's the Russian negotiator, isn't he?
I'm not sure that it is. Well, some people are saying maybe it's Kellogg who
has then quit.
Who's then quitting, is leaving in January. So
I mean, but the problem here is this is shambolic, isn't it? I mean, the attitude towards it. I mean, Kellogg was the guy promoted to do this. He's had nothing to do with it whatsoever. Witkoff was given the impossible task of solving Middle Eastern conflict and Ukrainian-Russian conflict, and he's the guy leading this. Is there a danger of trying to look for shape where there is no, trying to find brushstrokes in a brownie here?
I don't know what to make of. We've gone from macaroons to brownies.
I've just been reading about macaroons. I now understand the difference between you can't get a brushstroke from a brownie. Can
No,
you? It's all been
it is
muddled
chaos.
together.
It is chaos, but also I hate this lack of focus.
Are you all right?
If we come
understood
back
what
to
I
what
meant.
is at the heart of this, it is about one country invading a neighbour. So again, to talk about corruption in Ukraine as if that's a reason why Zelensky should leave the field is a little like booking middle-class people for cycling on the pavement in the middle of a riot where shops are being looted and, bombs are going off. It's so irrelevant to the core nature here. And what this shows is that, what we have in the Oval Office is some sort of real-life reality TV drama called Life with Donald Trump, where they brilliantly keep our interest because you can't predict the next move, and they leave you with a cliffhanger at the end of every episode. The next one starts with something you've never dreamt of. That is not going to solve the crisis in Ukraine and not going to make the world a safer place.
But presumably British politicians are correctly too scared of him. I mean, you were there with Boris, and Boris made Ukraine a big deal to him, and he was a very central figure in the Ukrainian conflict. But even if Boris were in power now, whoever's in power, they have to crook the knee to Trump, don't they? Particularly this version of Trump, the interventionist, powerful Trump with all the tech bros behind him. He's not weak like he was in 2016. He's very, very powerful.
But he has a weakness, as I understand it, well, we can all see it to a certain extent, is that he's susceptible to flattery. And as long as you tell him that he is the biggest, on the block, then he will listen to you. And there's a way of working with the grain of this man and flattering him and saying that Nobel Peace Prize that you were denied outrageously this year will be yours. It'll be, it'll be a slam dunk if you actually pull off peace in the Ukraine. But I think what Boris was telling him privately a few months ago, because he's not speaking statesman to statesman anymore, but he was trying to get Trump to see that if Putin wins, the West loses, and the leader of the West is Donald Trump. So it's a loss for Trump. So if you play to that, I'm sure it's doable.
But Putin probably plays to it as well. On the other side, saying we're both big men here. Let's carve this place up.
The other thing is that Trump is very vulnerable to being embarrassed. And whenever he does switch sides, it's because he feels that the Russians are humiliating him. Yeah. So that's something that we can use.
Very good.
Yeah. There we go. Well, we can try, but whether, as you say, how controllable any of this is, who possibly knows.